Hey, so I've received the same message, same video twice now. This is the second time. After the first time, that was me figuring things out, and that's how I figured a lot of things out actually. And I put those names out there of people as a warning. But now I've got the same message again, so I need to share it now. So all of this is because of hiding death benefits belonging to me, and I also got something about a life insurance and also an inheritance that something was left to me, a property, money, something, and they knew about it and they wanted to prevent me from getting it. There's a thief around me. A lot of people are involved. The thief, I know why they're around me, because of my laptop, and I think there's stuff on there that they want. Going around, someone is going around. Oh no, I think this is the thief. They're going around playing the victim. Something is off with this person, walked around like they did not care about me. Yeah, I think I know who it is. Anyways, there's a gift coming to me that's actually a blessing. Okay, that's good. I think it's because this person realized that what people did to me over money. They used to practice black magic in a previous life, and that's why kind of they've been going down the same path again, maybe, I think, if I'm thinking of the right person. But if you genuinely want to change, this is the moment. And if you want to change, you need to take accountability, which means tell me the truth. Also says a hacker will pass away. They set me up to go broke. Select a secretive job online. They wanted everyone to know that I am theirs, and they can't understand my level of human intelligence. My family members will be going to jail because of their bad karma. There's a friend who's stuck in jail with a mental disorder, and karmics put my stuff on the dark web. God knows what kind of stuff. I can imagine, if with all this prostitution rumors going around. But the FBI is watching them, so a karmic faked a marriage to me. Now they're in a panic. This is part of the probably destiny swapping thing. There's some gang activity, mafia connections. They want me to go homeless with no help. Well, you know what? I am homeless. I don't really have help, but you know what? I'm fine, because I've got my spirituality. I've got God, and the whole earth is my home. I've spent several nights out now, just staying in various places, so that's okay. Actually, speaking of that, I need to address something that the universe has kind of been kicking my ass about, because I've been kind of in my head a bit too much, thinking logically, oh, let me give them another chance, let me give them the benefit of the doubt, let me. But then yesterday I got a very, very significant sign that I need to do this, and I was like, okay, fine, I will. And so I'm gonna do that now. Yeah, okay. So it was necessary for me to go through that first, I guess, before I talked about this. So it's about a narcissistic therapist, psychologist. So basically, after I came back from Cyprus, I wanted to start therapy. I've been wanting to start therapy for a while, but I wanted to be able to pay for it myself. I didn't want my father to pay for it and then use that as a way to control me, which is what he does. So I've been waiting until. Also, I wanted to come to the UK. I didn't want to start in Cyprus. It made no sense. And anyway, I'd gone so long without it. It didn't really. And anyway, that was the time when everything was sort of coming to the forefront. So I just need to get to that point, I guess. Sorry, just changing my bracelet from the left to the right. So this therapist. So initially, what happened is my mother was being emotionally abusive, And I actually and when we came back to the UK, we went out for dinner, and she basically started attacking me again and trying to make my dad attack me, you know, like for them to gang up together, which they've done a lot actually. They do that a lot. But I told my dad, without knowing all the facts, don't attack me. Like, if you want to know what's happening, I'll tell you, but for now, just leave it. And he listened to me then. Then I dropped my mother at home, and then my dad and I went for a drive, and I basically just told him everything, like what was happening, why I was miserable, and that was also when I told him I'm moving out. And and also I said I was also not sleeping at all for about a month after my exams, and even during the exam. But during the exams I was taking like antihistamine just to be able to study, because I couldn't sleep, so I needed to study, and I needed to sleep so I can actually retain what I've learned. But then after the exam I didn't want to continue with that, so I stopped taking the promethazine, but I couldn't sleep. Like, for about a month I was getting like 1 to 2 hours of sleep maximum per day, and it was driving me mad. It was driving me crazy. Like, I couldn't function. And I actually just had an appointment with my GP, and she gave me like a 7-day course of Zopiclone, because she realized it's pretty damn serious. This is not just like. And also I told her I don't want to be on sleep medication. Like, I know I'm a recently qualified medical student. I know the dangers associated with the Z drugs and the benzos, and I really didn't want to. But at this point, if I don't have sleep, that's worse than me not taking the medication. So she understood that. She said, I can give you like a 7-day prescription, and then but I can't give repeat. And I said, that's absolutely fine. I just need to reset. And I took it for 2 days, and then I was fine. After that, I was able to at least get 5 hours, which is, it's fine. 5 hours is fine. But I talked to her, and I also opened up to her about the depression and the fact that my parents didn't do anything to get me help. And she said, if I want to do I want therapy? And I said yes, but the thing is, the waiting time is ridiculous. If you go private through the NHS, it's so ridiculous. So I wasn't very optimistic. And at the time, my dad was still playing the good cop, so I told him, and he said, oh, do you want me to arrange, do you want to see this private therapist who is my friend? And I was like, oh shit, what do I say? Because there's a lot that I need to talk about that's about my dad, and if he's her friend, and then the confidentiality issues, me being able to open up to her. But at the same time, I didn't really I guess I wasn't really thinking that straight at that time, so I was kind of didn't think to go approach someone by myself. But also my dad was being extremely supportive at that time, and I felt for his routine a bit. I felt for his act a little bit, because that's what he does. It's easy to fall for it, but it's just he can't keep it up for long, and I see through it again quite soon afterwards, and then I'm back to being emotionally detached. But that's what he does whenever there's a conflict, like between my sister and me, between my brother and me, between my mother and me. When you're in an emotionally vulnerable time is when he swoops in and tries to take over control by being extremely supportive and everything. Anyway, so so I said yes at the time, but I had reservations, and I told my dad, are you sure about this? Because I know she's your friend, and I don't want to be causing any problems between you guys. I will need to talk about stuff completely honestly. I will not be holding back. I will talk about everything, even things that you probably don't want to be talked about. And he said, oh no, it's fine, because I think he underestimated me, and he thought that he will be able to control me, because he thought that I had fallen for his routine when I hadn't. I was like, let's take what I can get at this point. I was like, right now I'm completely alone and I need some support from someone, and if I go into this knowing that I can't trust them, it's not such a big deal. You see what I mean? I had to play the game a bit. Anyways, that's what saved me though. Playing dumb is what saved me. That's why it's important to get rid of your ego, by the way, because if you have a big ego, you won't be able to play the game. You won't be able to do what I did. You need to defeat your ego. And it's not easy. Trust me, I know. I had a huge ego too, but I had to defeat it. It's a long process. I'm not completely done. But knowing that I'm not completely done and admitting that shows that I'm quite far, like, far in the curve. I don't know. Anyways, I can't remember the expression. Yes, so what was I saying? This therapist, yes. So when I went to see her, I asked her, I told her the same thing. I was like, are you sure about this? I don't want to cause any issues with your relationship with my dad. I don't want, there to be any problems, blah, blah, blah. But she was like, oh no, don't worry. I'll keep everything completely confidential. And if at any point you decide that you can't continue with me, we can always switch to another therapist. And I was like, okay, that's good. That's very good information for me to have, so that I don't have to feel like if I start with this person, I have to continue with this person, and she knows and I know that at some point this might not be able to continue. But even then, I was mostly focused on my mother in the first few sessions, because I wasn't that bothered about my father, because the stuff about the sexual abuse was more in my body. It was my body knew the reactions, everything. I didn't consciously know. It took me a long time to get to a point where I consciously realized what was happening. So that's kind of, I was focusing more on my mother and my issues with her. Even that itself took quite a few sessions, to be honest. But then I realized about the sexual abuse, and I actually sent her a message saying, I've just realized this happened. And at the time I was worried because, he's a child and adolescent psychiatrist. So I was worried about the kind of risk that poses as a child psychiatrist who has done this. Even though I can't prove it, I know he's done this. So I actually, before texting her, I think I texted her the night that I knew for sure this had happened. And then that night I also looked at, what do you call it? I'm just blanking here. Is it the GMC's thing where you can basically report someone who in a clinical capacity you're worried, for God's sake, I can't remember. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I was trying to do that. I was looking at that, but the thing is that only applies if you know someone either as your clinician or as a colleague. As a daughter, I can't really, I have no role there. So because of that, I was worried, and I asked this therapist, and she basically misunderstood me and sort of thought that I was trying to get her to say false things against my father. And I was so shocked. And I just, yeah, seriously. But also, I told her, that's not at all what I'm trying to do here. I'm just worried about the fact that this is a potentially at-risk situation. But then I thought to myself, you know what? My father is a bully, which means he's a coward. He is a coward. I've seen that. When you stand up to him, he folds. And I know that he would be way, way, way too scared to do anything to a child who is under his professional care. All his abuse is directed at people either in his family or people who are dependent on him in some way, mainly because he's made them dependent on him, like with money. They bought his loyalty, somehow, or that he's been the caring person when they've gone through an emotionally difficult period, so then they become kind of enslaved to him, and he makes them feel enslaved to him. And I'm not just talking about family, by the way, I'm talking about co-workers as well, or anyone who's sort of in a position under him will be bullied by him. I know of this, and I know there are people out there who feel like they can't speak out because what he has on them. All I want to say to you is, if you do need support, I'm obviously here. I know what he's done to you, and also I want you to ask yourself, do you want to continue to live in fear? Because you living in fear means you're joining his side. You're just perpetuating the toxicity and the abuse, and you're just enabling all of that. But if you take a risk, and no matter what's happened in your past, if you take that risk, you could probably save a lot of people. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do here. So if you want to join, that's it's up to you. No judgment, but karma, you will have to pay for it. That's all I've got to say to that. Another thing about this therapist is, she knows what I'm going through, and I actually told her, after this incident, I was like, I'm done. In my mind, I'm like, I can't continue talking to this woman, and especially because she triggers me a lot. Like, many things and phrases and the way she behaves reminds me of my father so much. And I'm pretty sure she's a narcissist, and the way she talks about her adult son who has neurofibromatosis, and the way she's taking care of him, and the fact that she said, oh, I know he's my child, but they're always going to be my son is always going to be my child. Oh, I know he's an adult, but my son is always going to be, like, so much of that just triggers me a lot. I'm like, oh my god, this sounds exactly like my father. This is what my father does. And also she had a narcissistic father too. She told me about that, and she was never able to stand up to him. Like, she was actually quite impressed with me for standing up to him. My father, she was like, I was never able to do that. And so that means she's vulnerable too. It's that whole generational thing again. It's like you have cycles of abuse, and it's horrible. But the only way to break that is by being brave and owning up to your problems, or owning up to things you've done wrong. There's nothing wrong in that, because what these people have done are far worse. Trust me, far worse. And you staying where you are in fear because you're afraid of what will happen if this comes out, you're just gonna pass on this to your future generations. It's not even about you anymore. It's about your children, your children's children. Is that really the legacy you want to leave behind? I mean, why do you stay in this job? For your child, right? You're doing it for your family. You're in the matrix because you're afraid that if you leave, that means your kids, your children, they're all going to be stuck. But you know what? They're stuck anyway. If you don't do something to change things, you're stuck anyway. They're stuck. Everyone's stuck. They're going to stay stuck. But if you take that leap of faith, like I've done, trust in something that's higher than yourself, trust me, the universe will take care of you. How do you think I'm living? I've got like 10 pounds, or now it's 8 pounds in my account right now. I have some cash that I took out earlier as just as an emergency cash, but that's what I'm living on.